deep learning happens when the learning is interactive. So one thing I want you to think about is there are certain skills, all of our language skills. I'm a speech language pathologist, so I want you to know that that's why we're called Rooted in Language, because we realize that all of these reading and writing skills are based on our language skills. And all of language is very interactive. The more we are engaged in our language skills, be it speaking, listening, reading, writing, the more interactive we are. Okay, but you'll see some artwork there, and we're going to talk about that aspect of interaction as well. The other thing is that students are really engaged in the process. They're not just passive listeners. They're not just regurgitating information. They're not just practicing a skill over and over again. That doesn't mean that all of that is not needed. I am not dissing that at all. You have to have skills at a certain level to go to that next level of deep learning. So we are all about skill training, but we're also about, once you are getting those skills, how can we help you learn at this deeper level? And kids have to be engaged. And the third is that there has to be some form of student output. They have to make something. They have to say something. And we're going to unpack these ideas for you today.
So this is the next one, that's that charting thing. So this analyzing, synthesizing, really taking in information and putting it back out in a really organized way, which really takes a lot of skills piled on top of each other. So once again, we like to pull it off of your standard kind of page, especially because charts don't look the way that you would look like writing on a piece of paper. They tend to look a little different. So we have whiteboard on our table. Kids love the fact that you can write on a table. It's just this like funky, weird, like, what? You're allowed to do that? Which is awesome. And we use, manila folders, and we use Post-its. We have so many Post-its all the time. Because it just changes the scenery enough, and it adds that little bit of that 3D aspect,
right,
and makes things more bite-size and easier to manage. And we do things a lot in bits and pieces. That's a phrase we use all the time. So we do these bits and pieces of writing.
So we know that when kids can put ideas together, crossing from one thing that they already know into what their new learning is, we know that when they can begin to sort, that when they engage, not just in this happened, but how did it happen in relationship to other parts of the story. If you notice, all the writing has both teacher handwriting and student handwriting. The one in the far right, the different colored Post-its were, I was writing sometimes, he was writing sometimes. We were trying to expand each other's ideas so we wouldn't be stuck on just a few things. And this child actually is a reluctant writer, not just reluctant, but he has dysgraphia. So to get him to write and fill out a whole paper is hard, but to get him to write on Post-its works. And those are the kinds of ideas that we talk about in our writing classes. And we do a lot of bits and pieces of writing across all our curriculum, because we know we are working primarily with struggling readers and writers. But what you find is even kids who don't mind writing really like it anyway.
Yeah.
They're engaged, they're putting ideas together, and that's what really matters. Right. So as it seems by now, we hardly need to talk about writing output, because what you saw was a lot of writing output.
Right.
But it's so important to realize that writing is engagement. And actually, it's engagement of the highest form. It's the most difficult. I love the little boy who's doing his workbook work. In his Halloween mask. Yeah. He actually is engaged right now in some real skill training. He struggles with dyslexia, and so he has to be doing a lot of work on working on getting sound to symbol relationships. And, even that kind of skill level requires engagement.
Right.
And, you'll notice that when we're on the computer, what we have going on is some analysis of text and the student and I were actually working online together, and so his writing was actually keyboarded in, and then my comments, and we were highlighting, and we were only highlighting to look at what exactly we were going to analyze. So just highlighting is not the same as writing. What he's really learning is to analyze, synthesize, take notes. There's a lot going on here. And then you can see how we use creative illustrations for concepts. So especially you'll see our big bug grammar going on there. You know, this was actually a sentence taken from an ACT study guide, and this student had to analyze what exactly was going on in that sentence, and it was so much easier for her to see once she took this big convoluted sentence and put it in its most basic bug parts.
Right.
Okay, so you see drawing going on still. You have a lot of overlap.